As cargo ships demolish bridges in Baltimore, we are still here discussing fairy tales with Jen. Welcome to Psychopinion. Jen, go for it.
Hey. Oh, the floor
Floor
is
is yours.
mine. um, well, I'm super excited about this episode. I love fairy tales. I've loved them since I was young. I also really like horror movies. So when the two mesh together, I'm like in
In
heaven.
heaven.
Yeah. So uh, as I grew up, I actually found out that some fairy tales have even darker origins. Like there's the Cinderella story where the birds peck out her eyes, and they cut their feet off, like they cut the toes, they cut their heels to fit inside the
Hmm.
shoe. There's other dark stories as well, like The Little Mermaid. That one I did read when I was young, the dark version, the original version, where she actually like
Holy
dies at the
shit.
end. Yeah, yeah. The Little Mermaid becomes sea foam and just goes into the
Seafoam.
air. It's very
Sounds
sad.
gross.
Yeah.
That was all Grimm, wasn't it? Wasn't the Grimm's
Coffee.
fairy tales like dark as hell? Isn't that? Yeah, like they.
Yeah. Not just his, but yeah, his is the most well
I
known.
wonder would Edgar Allan Poe fit as fairy tales? Some of it.
Um, I don't recall a whole lot of magic in that, and we're gonna go over the definitions of
Yes,
fairy tale
please,
here in a
because
minute.
That's what I'd like to
this
know, what a fairy tale
this
Yeah.
whole
actually
week
is.
I've been
Because
struggling.
I was
Um.
looking into, yeah, I was looking into that a lot this past week and trying to determine, is this fairy tale or is this just weird? So,
Um. Well, I mean, I understand the confusion because I'm also confused myself. Because whenever I looked up the definitions, I was like, well, that doesn't really, I mean, like almost anything can be a fairy tale then, as long as it has magic in it. So the definition of fairy tales is fairy tales are written works of fiction that always contain some sort of magic. And then folk tales are stories passed down through oral tradition,
Or
um, and may or may not
sorry.
and may or may not contain magic.
Okay,
gotcha.
so
So
I think
there's like a lot of
the word
gray
that comes
area
to mind
there.
when I think of fairy tales is probably enchantment. Like enchanted, which I guess could be construed as magic. I think there's a certain amount of whimsy, uh,
Yeah,
Mystical.
mystical maybe.
mystical. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's tough because you've got folklore, fairy tales, um, you've
Hmm.
got
Folk
folk tales,
tales,
yeah,
folklore. Yeah.
and fables,
Fables.
yeah, but fables I
Yeah.
think are animals.
That's easier. Yeah, that's easier to distinguish and put
Like if
aside
Cinderella
from the
was a rat,
rest.
then it's a fable, not a fairy tale. And then you have even further, you have like campfire stories and
Hmm.
legends, and yeah, there's a whole lot there, and I think a lot of those are pretty much all those are probably
Yeah.
nonfiction to a certain point, even if they're based on something real. I would imagine it's hard to define. I mean, really, Steve, what's your opinion, man? What do you how where do you draw the line?
I don't. So it's easy to not have to. But I do I do know that there is some crossover, I guess, because I've watched a lot of different things that are well, having girls too. A lot of the fairy tales that Jen have talked about kind of have two sides. They have the dark side, which they might
Hmm.
have originated from, and then the Disney side, we'll call it, where it's kind of been made mainstream and for a younger audience to once again bring that magical realm to life in a more palatable way for a younger audience, I think.
I think the best way
Um,
I can describe it is if we were doing a circle graph, it would look like that,
Yeah.
Pretty
just
Yeah.
close.
just all
Yeah.
fucking overlapping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen to when it comes to fairy tales, I think most people have heard of the Grimm brothers Grimm,
Hmm.
and the Grimm fairy tales, and I don't think I've ever heard a Grimm fairy tale that wasn't like dark and sinister and had some sort of like awkward agenda to the end of the story. There is on YouTube, because I do a lot of driving during the day, so I can kind of listen to things, but I can't really watch stuff, of course. But I was listening to some Grimm fairy tales that was on like an audio book,
Hmm.
and I've holy shit, like some of them I feel like I could have written while on the toilet. I mean, just no thought at all, and very repetitive, and you could kind of see where it was going the whole time, and then that's where they went, and it was the end of it. So, um, I guess there's obviously some are better than others and more entertaining than others, but uh, I always I always thought of the Grimm fairy tales as kind of the number one fairy tale that I would think about when anybody had ever brought
Well,
it up.
Jen, I don't know if you looked into it, but
Yeah,
is
he's
that the
popular.
original? Like, is Grimm the first ones known for that?
What, for the
For
darker
fairy
fairy
tales? Was
tales?
there fairy tales before Grimm?
Well, I didn't look exactly at the timeline, but I know that there's for sure another person that did dark fairy tales because the movie Tale of Tales, which is what we're gonna talk about pretty soon, that one was based on the writings of what is his name, G. G. M. Battista
Okay, so
Basil,
that sounds French.
an Italian
Italian?
Italian Italian
Okay.
poet.
Well, I don't know
Yeah,
French or
I'm probably mispronouncing his
uh,
name.
Grimm was
Yeah.
German, right? Yeah. Well, that makes
Yes.
sense.
Hmm.
Hmm. But I just don't know the timeline exactly. Oh, I do know that the Basile guy, the Italian poet guy, it was in the 17th century, but I want to say that Grimm was also in the 17th century. So kind of close, same time, I think.
Excellent. So, would you? So you said magic. So any movie with magic, that's another thing. And I'm not trying to get back into the whole confusing thing. So, so
Yeah, but it is confusing.
you know what? I'm just gonna leave it alone. Let's just we all have like it is what it
You
is.
think?
So you're talking about a tale.
Don't want to debate it further.
I feel like we could go on forever, and I feel like it would just literally look like that
Yeah,
graph I just showed you. So, but verbally,
yeah, I
Talking
feel
in
you.
circles,
We can.
you're
Yeah.
probably right.
Well, we can
do
move
it.
along. Um, so one of my favorite things about fairy tales is they have symbolism. Um, there's like symbolic elements that convey like different feelings or situations that the main character or other characters might be going through. Um, it's almost like a surreal painting and trying to unlock the puzzle of what is going
That
on in
was
the
beautiful.
film or the story.
Well put.
Actually, I wrote it really nice, but I didn't
Oh
say
well,
it.
that's too bad. That was very nice though.
Yeah, yeah. Um, So, going back to like some of the darker tales that Brothers Grimm did. There's also one that he did, Sleeping Beauty. That one originally was much darker. Instead of a romantic kiss, there is sexual violation and a
Oh shit.
pregnancy. Yeah, yeah. I don't
Ooh.
remember that one quite as much because I didn't actually like read that dark fairy tale, but I
Just
did some research for the show and read that
I
one.
hope it
Yeah.
wasn't by the no wait.
Right.
Oh, Sleeping Beauty. I was gonna say I hope the Seven Dwarfs didn't violate her, but that was a different one.
Yeah, that's Snow
That'd
White.
be rough. That'd be hard to get over.
Yeah. And also there's Red Riding Hood. In the original, the wolf eats the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood. And then the woodcutter comes by and cuts open the stomach of the wolf and frees them. And then he puts stones inside the wolf and drowns the wolf in
So
like a
it's fair
lake
to
or
say that the
something.
wolf doesn't chew his food very well. Okay.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of like interesting
It
like
always
dark
comes down to
ones.
cannibalism. I'm starting to see a theme.
Yes, there is for sure a lot of cannibalism
Hmm.
in fairy tales. Yeah. Um, should we get started on one of the
Feel free,
movies?
man. You lead the
Sure.
way.
I'm not used to leading the way. Um, so we can start talking about Tale of
Okay, I
Tales.
watched that one. I've got some opinions.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh,
Have you seen that one, Steven?
I have not. I cliff notes that one, so I
That one?
saw
Yeah.
some different clips of it and
Mhm.
small synopsis of it. But I was
Yeah.
hoping to be educated by you throughout this
you
podcast
you
tonight.
study for this podcast
All right.
probably like you used to in high school.
Hmm. I did go to high
You
school, didn't I?
cheating
Yeah.
bastard.
So long
A B
ago.
C A B B A C D B. Yep, that's how we did it.
Cliff notes and YouTube.
All right. So Tale of Tales was done in 2015. It has Selma Hayek in it and Vincent Castle. The summary is that it's an imaginative fantasy horror anthology film based on early 17th century works of the Italian poet Battista Basile. Um, it is not the sugar coated Disney tales we all know. This one's more erotic and horrific and full of bloody dresses, strange pets, and hearty meals.
I know the
Um,
hearty meal you're talking about.
pun intended.
Selma Hayek's meal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a beautiful visual, by the way. I really liked that particular visual. It's like very white in that room, and she's eating like this very red, bloody heart. So I thought that was really cool. Like that was like painting worthy. Um, so the main theme coursing through these three tales is obsession. There is obsessive love between the queen mother and her son. In another tale, there's obsession with the family pet, and there is an obsession with obtaining youth and beauty by any means necessary.
Hmm.
So there's obsession all throughout all three of those
Hmm.
stories. I found out doing some research what the fairy tales were called, like originally, the ones that were based, for
Hmm.
this movie. Uh, and it's The Enchanted Doe, The Flea, and The Flayed Old Lady.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I saw those, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I'm assuming that the Enchanted Doe one is the one that has Salma Hayek in it. But I could not find that tale where I could like read it. And I've never read that one
Hmm.
before. So
It was
unfortunate.
interesting.
Yeah. And these are not very well known to Americans, but some elements are similar to Snow White and the Prince and the Pauper. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie adaptation of Prince and the Pauper, but I did a long time ago. It might have
Yeah, I
been
saw the
Disney
Disney
actually that did it.
version when I was younger. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen the Barbie version.
there's a Barbie version.
There's a
I didn't
Barbie
know that.
version of everything, and I've seen all
Oh,
of them, sadly.
okay.
Well, there's
Yes.
some real horror right there.
Yep. It
Yeah.
is, yeah, what I've been through.
Poor man.
Um.
Yep.
So, the Prince and the Pauper, though, that is what I like got the feeling of for that one story, the one with the Salma Hayek character, because there's like the twin boys, and they, one of them is poor, and the other one is,
The Prince.
a prince.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hence the name. And you know, it just I just kind of like made the connection. It's like, oh, that's just like Prince and the Pauper. I just thought that was interesting. It wasn't mentioned anywhere that it was like it. I was just like, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So I guess that was like the original, and then they took it and made it into Prince and the
See, so
Pauper.
even back then they were stealing ideas and remaking things.
Oh,
Like
for sure. Yeah.
I would have loved to have lived in a time.
I mean,
I would
wouldn't
have
you?
loved to have lived in a time where people actually had original ideas because like it had to have happened at one
Mm.
point. Like somebody was sitting there and they're like,
Yeah.
"Fuck," you know.
Cave
Yeah, I
paintings,
don't know.
maybe.
I mean, you're probably right. It was probably adapted somehow from a cave painting somewhere because nobody's had an original thought in like a million years.
Yeah.
would you like Would you like my
Um.
synopsis of this? Or you,
Sure. I
oh
had a
no, well
little bit more to
please
say, but
continue.
sorry.
I'll wrap it up with my opinions.
I was just gonna say that the things that I liked, for the most part, the characters are well played, and you feel sympathy towards them, even for the villains. The visuals are good, and it really feels like the fairy tale comes to life.
Yeah, there's gonna.
So you're saying that it was like three different stories within the
Yes,
movie?
it's an
Gotcha.
anthology. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, three different tales.
I did see, I watched the trailer of it, and obviously not knowing that, it's hard to really know that, I guess, but at least in the
Yeah.
trailer. But it did look very visually stimulating and appealing. Like there was
Hmm.
a lot of different stuff going on. It was intriguing and something that I think I will watch, even though fairy tales aren't necessarily my thing. But it did look like a very entertaining movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stories are a little bit better than some of the others, but I mean, I really liked and appreciated the horror elements. Like there's the devouring of the heart, of course, which we already touched on. There's burning flesh for beauty and violent cannibalism. They don't really like show the actual cannibalism, but it's heavily implied. There's like an ogre, so I really liked that part too. It was kind of like Hills That Have
Yeah,
Eyes.
yeah, I thought the same thing.
Were
That
you
guy
gonna say that?
reminded me
Yeah,
of the ogre. Reminded me of one of the characters from The Hills Have Eyes. He looked a lot like him as well.
for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, like they even look
I
similar.
actually checked it out to see if it was the same actor for a second, and it wasn't. Um,
Yeah, they look
but for a
so
second
similar.
there, I was like, "That's the fucking dude," but it wasn't. I also thought the movie was visually appealing, and of course, Selma Hayek was very visually appealing. So
Yeah,
I can say for sure that
indeed.
that was visually appealing. Um, so I'll go ahead and tell you what I thought of this. Oh, first of all, Steve, just to kind of bring it back there, it is three tales, but they're actually the kingdoms are all in the same universe. It is all connected. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Okay,
So it is three stories, but the characters all are aware of and know each other to a certain degree. Um,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's like neighboring
yeah,
kingdoms, maybe.
that's what I think.
Neighboring, yeah.
So I love seeing John C. Riley because I'm a huge John C. Riley fan. He was in the beginning of the movie. He played
Yeah,
Selma Hayek's husband and the king. I wish he was in it longer.
I don't see
Yeah,
them very
I was gonna
long.
say I wish he
Yeah.
was in it longer. I love the universe it was set in. It was it was fun and whimsical. I have written down here.
Hmm.
I liked how the three kingdoms were connected. I just said that to me it felt very original because I've never really seen anything like that. Like especially the whole
Hmm.
the one king and the pet flea. That was really interesting and original to me.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever really yeah I've
And
never
kind of
really
weird.
seen anything like that. I don't think. And it kept me engaged. It reminded me of Game of Thrones, kind of a little bit. And the reason is because with Game of Thrones, I felt the same way at the end, and that's that I thought we were having a good time. It knew how to tickle me with its whimsy, how to hit the right spot, keep
Hmm.
me entertained and engaged. But right when I thought it knew how to please me, it bent over and took a big steamy shit on my chest without warning. So,
Sounds
yeah,
graphic.
well, I thought the ending was fucking terrible.
Yeah,
If I'm going to be
Yeah,
honest,
I didn't actually
but
like
I
the
like.
ending either.
he's been working that line in the mirror all day.
I was
You know
practicing
he
it
has.
earlier. Um, you know,
Hmm.
I had many people over, like, hey, let me know what it feels like to have my chest shit on. No, but the thing is, though, is that like Game of Thrones, it really did keep me engaged, and I thought it was wonderful, and I thought it was great. And I mean, I wouldn't discourage anybody from seeing it, but I personally found the ending to be very lacking, and that's just my personal
Yeah,
perception on it.
no, I
Was
can
the
agree with that.
ending a completion to all three stories, or was it just the third
Mm,
story?
It
It was the
completed all
ending.
three of the stories.
it felt,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but it felt more like it only completed like the last one to
Well,
me.
How
Like
long was it as an
they didn't
anthology?
feel complete to me.
no, but it did.
How long was what?
How long was it? Like, was it an hour and a half, 30 minute? Like,
I
Oh, the
don't think they really
movie?
divided it
yeah.
by
Gosh, I
equal
don't
amounts of time. I
remember.
don't think. Um, but all the
Okay.
Yeah.
characters at the end, I mean, I do feel like it kind of completed the story for everybody. If you're familiar with Sopranos, it was a very like Game of Thrones meets Soprano kind of ending. But
Mm.
that's how I felt. But I mean, honestly, I
Yeah.
loved every second up until that point, though. I mean, I did think
Hmm.
it was very original, and I love seeing original things because, like I said, you know, it seems like everything's a remake or a reboot these days, and it's nice to kind of see something that I haven't seen before. So
Not completely original since it was done in the 17th century, but
yeah,
I know what you mean. Like we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it in
I
this
wasn't
century.
around back then, so I didn't catch the
Right.
first adaptation. Jen,
Yeah.
did you want to continue?
Should we go to the
Do it,
next?
do it.
What you got?
um, oh, I have a lot.
If I know
In fact, I have so much I don't know which
if
one
I
to
know Jen,
do.
she's probably got like a goddamn whole legal pad in front of her.
It's a
Hmm.
book. It's basically a book. I wrote like a thesis like kind of paper or essay on like some of these. Not all of them, just some
Wow.
of them. Um, we can talk about let's talk about Edward Scissorhands.
You know that one, Steve, right?
I do.
Or did you see the Barbie version?
That's a fair.
The
I
Barbie.
did see the Barbie version. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was. I guess he wouldn't have had scissors. It probably would have been Edward Comb hands because you can't be too violent.
Or
Yeah.
Um,
Barbie brush
I
hand?
wouldn't have pictured. I wouldn't have pictured that as a fairy tale movie though. But I guess, I mean, yes, it does bring the whimsical, mystical, magical, and all the other
Mhm.
icals. But I guess I didn't have the true understanding of what a fairy tale was, or what folklore was, or
I don't know if we do or if we ever will.
so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's talk about it just the same.
Let's. So Edward Scissorhands was done in 1990. And it is like a scientist and he builds a human being, but then he dies before he can give him
That was sad.
hands. Um, so instead, he has razor sharp scissors where his hand should be. And a sweet suburban woman finds him and takes him home, where he falls in love with her teenage daughter. At first, the town loves the novelty of him and uses him for his creative talents. Then a few bad things happen, most of which are not his fault, and he begins to feel like an outcast. And then I didn't really like put a lot about the ending, but I wanted to kind of not spoil it completely. But as it's very well known, it is directed by Tim Burton, who is a big fan of fairy tales and uses them pretty frequently, I believe, in most of his
He's the one
works.
that fucked up Alice in
He's a
Wonderland.
big fan of Johnny Depp too.
Yeah,
Yeah, he needed.
I think this is a good one with Johnny
Yeah,
Depp in it, though, and not like some of
Tim
the bad
Burton needs
ones.
to recast.
Hmm.
Honestly, um,
Yeah, he keeps using the
I
same
know
people a
I know
little
we're
too
not
often.
discussing that necessarily. I don't know. It's your show, so you're leading us. But I think that the Tim Burton Johnny Depp duo ruined fucking Alice in Wonderland, and I'll leave that there.
Yeah,
And Charlie,
yeah, we feel the same because Charlie and Chalk Factory was just
what the
terrible,
fuck was that?
it's absolutely terrible. Um, but the Alice in Wonderland he did. I mean, I liked it okay. I didn't love it. I had really high hopes for it because I love Alice in Wonderland in general. But there was just like a lot of CGI, a little too much, and it just wasn't good. And I didn't really like the Mad Hatter character very much. I'm so tired of seeing Johnny Depp with white face paint all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
um, it's like it's been done to
yeah,
death.
Right.
So
I love the Mad Hatter in the original Disney cartoon. That was the Mad Hatter, and that was like my favorite
yeah,
character. I thought he was awesome.
yeah. And he looked a lot more like the drawings too, like the original
Yeah, it was a
illustrations.
lot of fun, the original one, and
Yeah.
I also had high hopes, and
Mhm.
it was terrible. And then they were like, you know what? That did so badly. Let's go ahead and make a second one, and that was also fucking bad. So Anyway,
Yeah. Well, I agree.
Edward
But
Scissorhands.
uh, Edward Scissorhands. It was. I read that it was inspired by Tim Burton's own feelings as a teenager, as well as influenced by films such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Mhm.
Phantom of the Opera, and Frankenstein. For
I was
sure,
going
I
to
can
say
see
Frankenstein
Frankenstein.
if you didn't, because even though I didn't know what you were about to
Yeah.
say, that makes sense. Yeah.
hmm Um, Also, I kind of thought to myself, in a weird way, Pinocchio is a little bit like Frankenstein. Not quite as
Hmm.
scary, but the beginning is kind of, him creating something and it coming to life. So just a
Right.
little bit, just a smidge,
Oh,
like
Isn't there a new
Frankenstein.
Pinocchio movie coming out too? Or did
I
it
think
already
there's
come
one
out?
by Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah,
That one
that's
already that one already came
it
out.
did come
well,
out.
Yeah.
if it's Del
Okay,
Toro, that's
yeah,
got to
I'm
be
behind the
dark.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it did
haven't
look dark.
I didn't watch it yet.
Well, we
I'll
should
have to
keep
watch
that.
that one, and
Yeah,
we'll do a show on a future fairy tale episode, and I'll make sure to watch that one and
we
delve
better
into
now
that.
because you can't promise anything you
Um,
can't deliver.
I can deliver that.
You heard me.
Uh, but the fairy tale that also contributed to Edward Scissorhands was Beauty and the Beast, and I can see that as
Okay.
well. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
can you kind
there's
of
a
see
whole
that?
lot going on
Yeah,
Yeah,
there.
there's
Huh.
like a lot.
I never really
hmm
thought about
I, I saw
So, okay.
I saw a few movies that were so loosely based on fairy tales, like there wasn't anything magical about them, but yet you could see where there it was derived in part by a fairy tale, or you could, I guess, understand where they were going with it.
Mhm.
And Jake, you and I were talking about this the other day, and we couldn't think of his name right out of the gate. The Conjuring guy, the guy that's been in all the
Pat.
Yeah,
Is that
him.
Insidious, and
hmm
what's
Patrick
his name?
Patrick Wilson?
Patrick
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 Wilson.
Wilson.
Patrick
Wilson.
Wilson. Okay, the
Yeah.
movie with Patrick Wilson, and then that the girl from Juno or the guy from Juno, depending on what time of the year you're talking about it.
Oh, are you talking about Hard
What
Candy?
was her?
Oh, hard
That's
candy.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they
Oh,
took they
I'm gonna
took
talk about
hard
that
candy.
later.
Well, okay, but I don't want to
No,
get
no, no,
ahead of you,
no.
but
Not in this episode. I'm gonna save
okay,
that one for another fairy tale
Oh,
episode.
so now,
gotcha. But that one
Yeah.
was kind of a little Red Riding Hood type of.
Yes,
Okay, cool. All right.
for sure.
okay. So now I'm gonna
Yeah.
Yeah.
start.
So, and
And
I could
and
see that
a
afterwards.
great movie.
I
I
yeah,
love
I
that
watched
movie.
that when it came out. It had to have been at
Mhm.
least 10 years ago, but um, I watched that movie, and it was entertaining, but I could definitely
Mhm.
see after the fact the kind of potential ties to Little Red Riding Hood there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm writing down all the
Um.
names of things Jen is promising us in the future. So let's
Okay,
continue.
that's fine.
This whole episode is just telling you what we're going to do, but we're not actually doing anything today.
uh, well, I do have a fun fact about Edward Scissorhands that I did not learn until I researched this
Okay.
movie a little. Um, so several actors were considered for the role of Edward. Um,
Oh
Tom
Jesus,
Cruise. Yep. I
that would have
knew I
been
knew that was going to
fucking
be your
awful.
reaction.
Jesus wasn't one of them, but Tom
That
Cruise
was
was.
awful. That would have been the worst thing
Uh-huh.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, there's
Okay.
worse. Wait for it. Um, Tom Hanks
Wow.
Mm.
as Edward Scissorhands? Like I cannot.
Life is like a
No.
hand of scissors.
What did they just go
Um,
through? Tom Hardy, was
yeah.
he on the list?
Ah,
No.
yeah,
Life
no.
is like a hand of scissors.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman could have
Gary
That
done it.
Oldman, I can kind of see
I
that.
love Gary Oldman in
Yeah,
everything
I
he could do
for
saw
the
I
it.
most
saw a
part that
meme
he's
one
done.
time that was like
He's a great
I
character
saw a meme
actor.
one time that was like, imagine you woke up and looked in the mirror and realized that like you're not you. Gary Oldman was playing you the whole time, and I fucking believe that because
Yeah.
Gary Oldman is like the best character actor fucking ever. Like that
Yes.
guy could
Hmm.
literally play
Yes.
Steve walk in my house and I wouldn't fucking know it's Gary Oldman. Like he is insane.
Yeah. So that one was like pretty believable. John Cusack, which
I don't know if that's really his dig
eh,
though. John Cusack is a
eh,
great actor, but
yeah. It's not. It's not really like his
Yeah,
thing.
I couldn't really see that.
Yeah. But but
Yeah.
wait,
Oh God,
there's
there's
more.
more, much more.
Oh yeah,
Oh
Jim
fuck,
Carrey.
that would have been Jesus. It would have been the Grinch with scissor hands. Fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
that
that
came out
one.
in, when did that come out? 1990?
1990. Yeah,
1990.
that
So
was
yeah,
probably
Jim
around the
Carrey
time
was
he was
pretty much,
doing. I think he was doing In Living Color in the 90s.
Well, to put
yeah.
that
Remember
in
In Living
perspective, that's
Color, the
34
show?
fucking years
That,
ago.
oh
I
yeah.
mean, Jim Carrey
Yeah,
I
was
know, it's
that was
insane
around the same time as
how much
probably like
time,
The
but
Mask or some shit, or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
probably a few years before it. I don't think Jim Carrey had blown up quite yet,
Imagine
but
the fucking Mask
Not
playing
not not as
Edward
big. Yeah,
Scissorhands. That would have been, yeah. I wouldn't have liked that. That wouldn't have worked.
yeah, yeah. That one
hmm.
made me laugh because I was like, well, that was going to be a totally different movie then if it's Jim Carrey had
Yeah.
played him.
Wow.
Well, I couldn't see
Um,
any of those guys.
and
That would have
there's
Gary
been,
one
Oldman can do it
more.
though. Just saying.
yeah, Gary Oldman might have been the only one.
Yeah, I agree. But there's one more. He wasn't considered for the role, but he expressed his want, his desire to do the role.
What
Michael
the
Jackson.
fuck? Wow.
Yeah, Michael
Wow.
Jackson.
Jesus. Could
He
you have?
wanted
Could
to
Okay.
you?
do it, but they were like, "Nah."
I can actually picture it, and it's fucking terrible.
I can kind of
But it's
picture it.
not
Yeah,
good.
a
Like I
little
can
bit.
picture it, but it's not good.
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to play Wolverine in the next movie, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So,
I guess he like contacted them and was like, "I'm really interested in this role," and they were like,
They're like,
"Nah."
go home, Michael.
yeah,
Go
no
home,
kidding.
Mikey.
Yeah, because it said expressed interest in the role. It didn't say that they were considering him for the role on that one. So I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that was
I
like an
see.
old school
I
neighborhood. They might
see.
have had another issue with, the fact that he was black and had scissor hands back then. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been a whole nother ball of shit. But
Yeah, they
Yeah,
wouldn't
no
have had to
kidding.
do a whole lot of makeup on him, I don't think.
well, he would have had to have pale
I can't. I'm like picturing him in a red leather
with
jacket
scissor hands.
playing with Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah,
I went
Yeah.
right to
I like
Thriller
that.
too. I went right to Thriller,
Yeah.
which I think Thriller was actually an amazing music video, and I think Michael Jackson
Oh,
was
I
like
loved it.
phenomenal in
Loved it.
Thriller. I mean,
Yeah, it was like a
yeah, he's a
miniature
very
movie.
talented guy, but Edward Scissorhands, he is not.
Agreed.
Okay, so Edward Scissorhands,
Um,
Winona Ryder,
yeah, and that's
Winona Ryder,
yes,
fucking love
love
Winona.
her. He does use her a lot in
Yeah, but
his
I'm not sick
movies.
of her. I'm not sick of it.
I'm not sick
So
of her
I'm sick of
either.
Johnny Depp, but you can keep Winona Ryder. And I love Helena
Yeah,
Bonham Carter. I've got like
I love her
I've got a
too. Yeah,
weird
he does
crush
use
on
her a
her.
lot
Like
too.
I don't know. There's something going
Yeah.
on with her. She's got like a it factor. But we're not here to talk about
Hmm.
Jake's.
Kind
Yeah,
of a goth girl,
yeah. I really
British
liked her
sort
in
of
Harry
thing going
Potter,
on.
but we're
Yeah.
not discussing that. So please, but there's magic in Harry Potter, so that
Yeah,
may be a fairy tale.
there is. That's
It's
a
a
fairy
fairy tale.
tale.
Comes out.
See, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
In the
I don't know.
definition of it, yeah,
Hmm.
it is.
So
I
magic
guess
is to
Yeah.
fairy tales as hammers are to serial killers, is what we're gathering here, Steve.
that's true. Swing sets and yeah, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. The so what about like Lord of the Rings and stuff like
fairy
that?
tale.
That's not old enough to be uh,
It does
a
I
have
don't
fairy
think it
magic.
needs
tale,
to be
or
old because Harry Potter, if that would be considered a fairy tale to anybody, then Lord of the Rings has to be
yeah,
because that was written way before Harry Potter,
that's true.
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah,
magic in it. So
yeah. There's so many. God, there's so many movies.
I
Here,
know
let
there
me say a
is.
movie, and you go to your list, which it undoubtedly is on. Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah, that's a fairy
hmm.
tale.
It is. Did you have that in your list, or did was that not
Oh,
one of
I'm
them?
saving that
Oh
one
my
for
God,
another
Jesus, here we go again.
episode.
Ah,
But it is on my long list. I have a long list of possible ones that I'm going to do in the future. I mean, I
gotcha.
have the fucking list if you guys want to see it. It's like
This is
hella long.
Extensive. It's a
this is
book.
obviously her topic.
And this is not
Holy
all of
shit!
them. I don't know
Holy
if can you see
smokes.
that? That's the
Yeah.
first
Wow!
page. That's just the
Oh my
first
God!
page.
Whoa! 2.5 pages.
There's more.
Much more.
Yeah. So we have plenty to go, do like, I don't know, like 8 more shows just on
Well,
fairy
I'm just
tales
writing
alone.
down what you're promising the
Um,
people at this point because it being my show, I need to make sure that happens. So
yeah. I have seen that movie though, Stephen, and I do love it.
Yeah.
And I will be
I
for sure discussing that one.
I am a Chris Hemsworth dude. I mean, that was right around the same time that, if I remember correctly, the first Thor came out right around the same time. Like Thor came out 2011-ish, that came out 2013-ish, if I remember.
Mhm.
And so I was excited about that. Plus, um, what's her name? Charlize Theron. There's not a movie
Yes.
that I don't like her
even
in.
Monster,
So that
Yes.
she
was
looks
kind of
great in
cool.
Monster.
Excellent.
Uh, yeah, she does look a little different in Monster, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, she makes that up with like
Devil's
a
Advocate was she was gorgeous.
Devil's
Oh,
Advocate.
I
There you
love
go.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a
Love
baby in
that.
Devil's Advocate. I don't even know. She had to have been like 20 years old in that movie.
Chris Hemsworth. I was just
Um,
Yeah.
talking to a friend about how much he sucked in Ghostbusters.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I hated
yeah,
that. I hated that one. That
yeah,
The
particular
Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters
with the
movie
women,
was
with the
terrible.
women's.
Yeah.
yeah. It was
I'm
not
all
good.
for women and women power and whatnot, but that one, no. That was a no. Not
I'm all
done well.
about things changing and adapting as well, but I think sometimes it feels very forced. Like it's like we need to make a movie with
Hmm.
this all male cast needs to be
Hmm.
women just to. I mean, it feels like it's just proving a point that doesn't need to be proven.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like spend your time to write a
Yeah.
good movie. You don't need to just beat an old movie because you want it to be fit a certain agenda. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know, and that's what that
Hmm.
one seemed like to me. It just seemed like um, yeah,
Too
like
forced.
forced
Yeah.
to fit an agenda, in my opinion.
Yep,
Hmm.
But like, I think we keep getting off
Yeah.
topic.
we do, but that's
Okay.
bound to happen.
But I can't like I only
Yeah.
need to bring it up when I start forgetting what the fuck the point was. Like
We're doing this one on fairy
I don't
tales,
know, Edward
dark fairy
Scissorhands. I
tales.
think is where we're at. Or were we done with that?
Oh,
Nope.
well,
Oh,
I've
we
already
moved
moved
on.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
lot.
Yeah.
well, shit.
I have a
Well,
lot.
like,
But if y'all want to keep talking about
no,
it,
we're.
hey,
I think we're. Yeah, you need to.
yeah. I have a lot more, and some of them I go further into
Okay,
depth. So I think I should maybe do one of
like dead
those.
time stories.
Um, no. That one I have 2 sentences on, or maybe 1
Well, that's
sentence.
another
Yeah.
one I saw, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll with your plans for the next episode. So I'd like to knock that one out if you want to talk about it for a second.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so oh well,
You want me to
I'll
start
go.
or?
Dead time
Okay.
stories was kind of bad. Hope it was made to be bad in the way old horror movies were. If not, it was just garbage with no redeeming qualities. The acting, the stories, just bad. Then worse, then the worst. Why was the uncle telling his nephew stories with so much sex in them? Seemed like an
Yeah.
inappropriate Princess Bride scenario. Then the kid got attacked by a monster at the end, which was kind of unfair. The kid just didn't want to sleep. It was the uncle that was the degenerate douchebag.
For sure. He was the
Like,
monster,
so if you hadn't
the
seen this,
uncle.
Steve, it's basically this kid's being watched by his uncle. The uncle's trying to put him to bed. The uncle even mentions at one point, like, he's annoyed that the kid's still up because he's trying to watch, like, Miss Nude America or some shit. And, like, the dude's sitting here telling his nephew these stories that are just like, it's like softcore porn type shit. And
That's what I said
yeah,
in
and
my
it's
notes.
like, it's just weird. It's like I said, the best way to put it, it was like Princess Bride, like, but inappropriate. Like, it was
Yeah,
like, yeah, if
it's
like
perfect.
Fred Savage was sitting there, his grandfather was like, yeah, and then he bent her over and started fucking boning her, like on Princess Bride or some shit. That's pretty much like the vibe I got. Also, the stories
Yeah.
and
That's
the
rough.
acting sucked. So, pretty bad movie,
Mm.
actually. I would actually the opposite
Yeah, pretty
recommend
bad
that.
all around.
Like, don't fucking watch that. Don't waste your fucking time.
Have you
Yeah, I
seen
don't
it,
intend
Steven?
on it. I have not.
No?
You got a
No.
cliff note
No.
on it?
Definitely, if you do watch it, do not watch it around your kids.
Kid Steves are
No.
like
Yeah.
kid Steves. Kid Steves are Steve's
Kid
kids.
Steves.
Steve's kids are like
Yeah, Kid Steves are pretty
kid
Steves.
Steve.
There's no
Steve's kids are
doubt.
pretty much adults at this point, so
They are. Yeah. I'm embarrassed with what I see them watching at times, so
that's got to be awkward.
Mm.
it is.
Awkward. All right. So, Jen, what's your 2 sentences? Or did I cover it?
Oh, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I said that I wrote down that it was like softcore porn, and there were moments where it feels, very campy, almost like Evil Dead, but Evil Dead is actually a good movie, and this one's not.
Yeah,
So
I could go for that. I would have much rather watched the
yeah,
other Dead Time Stories that I saw up there when I was searching for it, and that was by Romero. I didn't see it, and I don't know much about it, but I'm sure it was better.
yeah, I'll have to watch that one too. I don't think I ever have.
Well, Romero is going to be definitely a huge topic next week. So,
Oh
yes.
yes, zombies.
Zombies. Yeah. Anyway, so continue. What do you want to move on to next? Or do you just want to tell us another
um,
one you're going to do in the
let's
future?
stop. Um, well, there's one that I really want to talk about, and it's the movie
Okay.
Legend.
Steve, you seen Legend?
Uh, do you
I
remember?
might have. You have to, um,
Long
yeah,
ago.
yeah. Tell me about it. I'll let you know.
Okay. It was done in 1985,
Ooh,
so
maybe not
it's
then.
kind of old.
But yeah,
Oh,
talk about
how
it. I
old were you
might
in
have.
'85, Steve?
Yeah.
Younger than I am
Okay.
now. I wasn't
He
quite
doesn't want
double
to give out
digits
his
yet.
age. I for sure was not
I
double
was two.
digits yet.
So,
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I
You
was
were
two.
how old?
Yeah.
2. Yeah. I was
Whoa.
5.
Jen's
I was born in the 70s. We'll just put
holy
it that
shit.
way.
Oh,
Continue.
you're older than me. Okay. So it is a dark fantasy adventure film directed by Ridley Scott.
I didn't know that.
That
That's
Ridley Scott.
Okay.
awesome. Ridley Scott's good.
Yeah, Ridley
Okay.
Scott. Um, the same director, of course, famous for the movies Alien and Blade Runner.
Blade Runners.
So this
I
is
thought Blade
what?
Runner sucked. I'm like the only person in the world. I get a lot of shit for that.
New
Both.
or old?
Fuck those movies. And you know what the
I
worst
love
part
Blade
is?
Runner.
Sorry, I hit the mic. You know what the worst part is? I'm the biggest Harrison Ford fan fucking ever, and I hate those movies.
I,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I get it,
Hmm.
but I get a lot of shit for that.
we'll have to talk about that in another
Yeah.
episode or something. Even though that one's not. That's
No,
not
it's
really
not.
horror.
Well, it's horror. It's
More like
horror in the
sci-fi.
fact that it was horrible.
Horror
So
adjacent. No,
yeah,
it
it
was
was pretty
not
bad. It's
horrible.
long and drawn out and boring. I wish Rob was here because Rob loves long, boring movies. He's actually the one I watch those with.
I know something that's not,
I
which
bet
is
you
a
like it.
fairy tale. So, Jen, continue.
You're right. We're getting off topic. So this is a classic tale of good versus evil. There is a boy who lives in the forest. It's played by Tom
Wah,
Cruise.
wah.
Um, yeah, we
Another
had to mention
cruise
him
movie?
again. Yeah, I know. It's another Tom Cruise movie. He shows the girl he loves a magical unicorn as a gift to her. Um, Her innocence allows her to touch one of the unicorns, which, unbeknownst to them, helps the evil goblins to capture it. And then the girl is also trapped by the Prince of Darkness, who's played by Tim
Mm,
Curry, who does a phenomenal job, and looks
Tim Curry is
amazing.
phenomenal.
I go into more about that later. Um, and he tries to make her his bride. So spring quickly turns into winter as darkness
Wait, the devil
gets
tried to make the
stronger.
girl his bride or the unicorn?
No, no, the devil.
Was trying to steal
Prince of
Tom
Darkness.
Cruise's. He was trying to
Tim
steal Tom
Curry.
Cruise's woman. Okay.
Yes. Um, and then spring turns into winter as the darkness gets stronger. And now the boy goes on a quest with dwarves and elves and fairy to help him save them all from a world without light. So the set design is absolutely magical. Um, top marks for that. It is a bit heavy-handed on the glitter, especially now that I'm watching it as an adult. I've seen that movie like I don't know how many times, like probably 50 times. But most of the time I watched it when I was younger, and it didn't really dawn on me how much fucking glitter is in
Hmm.
this movie. Like it's in the snow, it's on the fruit. Like fruit is covered in
Sounds
glitter. Everyone's body is covered in glitter.
Hmm.
Um, Watching it now, I'm like, those actors must have like gone home and probably was never able to wash that glitter off. Probably just stuck to their bodies for
Yeah,
like
they were trying to
years.
explain to their wives they weren't at the strip club and all kinds of shit.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
yeah,
just filming a movie.
yeah. Um, so the special effects are amazing for that time period, especially. My favorite example is the creature called Meg Mucklebones.
Megabones.
Um, since you guys, yeah, Meg
Mechabones.
Mucklebones.
Mucklebones.
Mucklebones. Yeah. That was like actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's actually this one of the scariest parts of the movie. You don't see her for very long. You see her right before they get to like the he's called the darkness, but we'll just say Tim Curry. When we get to Tim Curry's castle or realm, you come across like this river hag, and it's Meg Mucklebones. And I mean the practical effects on that are just astounding. She's gooey, like I like. She's dripping with
Yep.
goo. Oh, I found out an interesting fact that I did not know. I found out that one of the things that they use, like the practical effects people, they use KY jelly for that gooey look.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh,
KY
wow.
Was
jelly.
the
Yeah.
Okay.
not the
Yeah.
warming liquid though, right? Just the regular KY.
I think in '85 there wasn't a warming liquid one yet.
There wasn't.
Probably
That
not.
stuff that never mind.
No.
Sorry.
I
You
Yeah.
almost baited
Well,
me on
okay.
something I shouldn't share.
I think everyone has probably
Yeah.
tried that, and it's not
It's
very much fun.
not.
Anyway,
That's what I was
so
gonna say. It's like
I
sex on the
didn't.
beach. Don't fucking do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not. Don't. It's not worth the hype. So, Meg Mucklebones, though, my
I
favorite
just
character of
looked
this
her up
movie.
and she
Um.
reminds me a little bit of the way she looks like the witches and witches, but like gooey. So yeah,
Yeah.
she's
And
fucking
green, like
yeah, she's
really
fucking
green.
creepy looking.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yes. I
Terrible
fucking
tits.
love her. Yeah. Oh, and I had never known like the backstory to her until I researched this. So I'm like super excited. I'm like, what? I didn't know she was like based on this other character. So she is based on an English mythological river hag. Um, and you're gonna love this. The name of the river hag is Jenny
Ooh.
Greenteeth.
Jenny Green Tea.
It would
It
be
would be
Jenny,
Jenny. It's
of
gotta be
course.
Jenny.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Don't ever get
And you guys are not allowed to call me this name. Okay.
I feel like that was the first thing I was gonna do, so I'm glad you warned
I
me.
knew it. Yeah. Um, but she is a river hag that pulls children into the water to drown them. Yeah, it's based on this
Did they
myth,
say why? Or is she just an
Jenny
unfriendly
Greenteeth.
fucking bitch?
Nope, they didn't say why, but eventually I'm gonna have to like research that one further because I personally want to know, the whole
I'm
story of
intrigued if
Jenny
she's ever
Greenteeth.
been able to pull a child into the water for the sake of her being so gooey.
It is true.
Yeah, just
But if
slips
she
through.
gets you gooey enough, you're
Their
not
I'm
gonna be able
hands
sure
to
that
slip.
would be
escape because you're gonna be
difficult.
slipping and sliding.
Yeah.
That's right.
That'd be fun.
Well, I think the Legends version of Jenny Greenteeth, Meg Mucklebones, I think their version is probably more, gooey than maybe perhaps the original one. I don't know.
You have ruined the word gooey for me now.
Like
Yeah,
when I
I
hear
have.
gooey, I'm
Good.
thinking of like
How about the word
chocolate
moist?
fudge brownies. Now you've
No,
ruined
we're
The-
gooey
not thinking
for
about
me.
that
So
anymore. We're thinking about Meg Mucklebones.
yeah,
Meg
I know.
Knucklehead.
I know a lot of people hate the word moist. So if you'd rather, I
I
would
don't
use
mind
that
the
word
word
if you like.
moist.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard that
Matter
a
of
lot too.
fact,
A lot of
I
people.
love the word moist because it annoys people so much. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's just because I'm obnoxious, but either way,
Well, I have no problem with the word moist.
moist, moist.
Moist.
There's somebody right now listening to this, like, what the fuck, guys? Stop saying that
Yep.
shit.
Yep. And
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah,
turn us
that's it. We
off.
just lost a viewer. Thanks, Jen. We
You're
only have
welcome.
like 3 right now as it is, so we can't
Ah,
really
it's
spare
okay.
them.
It'll come with time.
Gonna have to bleep it. Be like,
um.
beep.
So I have so much more on this movie. So this is one of the ones I wrote a book on. So the special effects, the practical effects, are done by Rob Bottin or Bottin. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's great. I love him. I love his work. He did the special effects makeup for the movie The Thing
Ooh,
as well.
Mm,
Also one of my
that's gooey as
favorites.
well.
dig
So
it.
apparently I really dig this dude. Yeah. And Tim Curry's makeup is also very well done. He looks kind of like a cross between like the traditional visual of Satan and like maybe a minotaur, because he's got the horns and they're
Those
like
horns
coming
are
out
fucking
like this
huge.
way. Yes,
Hmm.
they're huge and they're made out of fiberglass.
Wow.
I just a little fact I
I
read.
wonder even this fiberglass how heavy that was to carry around. Had to be rough.
Yeah. And it took so many hours for for
That's the
them to do
part
their
that's like
makeup.
crazy
So,
and impressive to me though, is when you make a movie and it's like it takes like 10 hours to do the makeup. It's like, how do you even have the fucking energy to act after
yeah,
that?
Yeah, I don't
right?
know.
Like you got to do all that shit and then maybe you do like an hour long scene. It's like, I mean, I get it because it's like visually fucking stunning, but it's like, Jesus.
Yeah, like, what are they doing in, time? Like, are they watching a movie, like, as they're putting on their practical
I would nap.
effects?
I would
Like,
nap.
what?
That's what I would do.
Read
I'd
a book?
just take a fucking nap.
Probably in '85 they were doing some
Yeah,
drugs.
that's true. Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
They were good. Good point.
yeah. So the music is perfectly done with mostly like an ambient mix with like electronic music done by Tangerine Dream. Um, love Tangerine Dream. They've done a lot of music for a lot of movies, a lot of '80s movies especially. I know they did some music for Risky Business, not all the music, but some of it.
Hmm.
Some of the score.
So Tom Cruise likes
And
him.
yeah, I bet he does, cause yeah, they're in a lot of his movies, well, older movies. Um, the whole film really embodies like magic and fantasy well. Like all the visuals. I mean, to me, it's like spot on. It's a little too much glitter, but it's spot on. Very magical feeling. Um, as far as fairy tale reference goes, I did not find a specific one that it was based on, but it did say that the director based it on some fairy tales. It just doesn't specifically mention which ones. However, my own personal theory um, is that it's similar to the story of, and I know this is not a fairy tale, so let's not do a debate here either. But it's similar to the story of Hades and Persephone, which is
Mm.
mythology. Are you guys familiar with like their story, like Hades and Persephone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not terribly familiar, but I've heard of it, heard of them.
Yeah,
Prob-
like Hades is.
no, I was
Oh,
going to
go ahead.
say that probably years ago I would have been. I used to be really into mythology, but I'm drawing a blank here. I was going to say it might. I was going to actually suggest that maybe it is like has biblical ties because it's the devil, but you know,
Hmm. Yep. That's in my notes too. Because there's like the whole original sin kind of thing, which is also in Hades and Persephone. Um, it's all very similar. That whole like original
hmm.
sin part. Um, it's in the Bible. Yep. But so the Hades and Persephone part, it's like Hades is the god of the underworld, and Persephone is the daughter of a goddess, which is in a way like a princess, and in legend, she's a princess. And there's also a cycle of seasons in legend as well as Hades and Persephone. There is temptation of food in both movies. There's a reference to the original sin, which is, we just touched upon that. The difference is that the myth has where she has to stay with him like the half of each year. Um, and in the movie, she gets her freedom and can just leave, and the seasons just go on. In the mythology, it's like they make a deal. They make a deal where she has to stay in the underworld for just half the year, which is why we have fall and winter. And then in spring and summer, she's off in the real world. So she has her freedom for only half of the year. I've always loved Hades and Persephone story. That's like actually one of my favorite mythology stories. So that's probably why I made that connection when I watched it now, because I love that story so much. And I was like, wait, how have I never noticed this before? It's like Hades and Persephone.
Yeah, it's interesting.
um, yeah, and like that whole original sin thing, like the Bible in the mythology story, it's a pomegranate, and in the Bible, it's typically assumed that it's like an apple. It's depicted
I'd
as an
rather have
apple.
pomegranate.
Could be any
I
fruit,
love
really.
pomegranate. It's good
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, I would rather it be pomegranate too.
The only thing better would be like a banana.
Um,
That maybe is too phallic. I don't
it would be funnier.
know. Be like a banana.
Yeah, but I did.
So I don't know.
Yes, and then she can slip
Yeah.
later on it after
And
she
that's
eats
what
it.
started Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah. Or Mario Kart.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's so.
Um,
Oh yeah.
one
Go
more
ahead.
thing, if I
You
may,
may.
just one more. Um, I also, when I was researching this movie, I found a lot of people, actually, they were on Reddit, talking about how this movie is a lot like Legend of Zelda, the
Hmm.
video game. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that before. That's really cool. I can see the similarities too, even though I haven't played the game in like forever, because that was like in the 80s. That game was done the very next year. And I did find somebody saying that that guy did base that game on the movie Legend. So I
I
thought that
fucking
was
love Zelda.
interesting. Yeah, Legend of
That
Zelda.
game was
Yeah,
so awesome.
and you can kind of see it,
Yeah, that
right?
game was.
I feel
You can
as
kind of
though
see the similarity.
I might have seen it at some point, and it would have been a long time ago. It's vaguely familiar,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I might not watch the whole thing, but I'm definitely going to check it out and see what it's about.
yeah. I think you should. I would recommend it. I love it. I mean, some of the characters are a little sappy. Like, I'll say that. Some of the acting's a little on the sappy
A
side.
little gooey.
It's not yeah. It's a little it's not really like one of Tom Cruise's best movies. I don't really like him that much as an
Yeah, his
actor.
list of best movies is
Um,
like what, just less than a
kind of small.
handful.
Like real actual good movies. Yeah. I'm not too much into the action films, so I haven't watched a lot of the Mission Impossible movies. I know a lot of people
Nah,
love them, but I don't.
fuck him.
It's not my thing.
Fuck him.
You know who loves Mission Impossible movies the most?
Tom Cruise.
Who?
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I bet.
He's loving them all the way to the
It's a
bank.
good one. Yeah,
So
making his
like,
money,
if we got like
giving it to
if we have like 2
Scientology.
seconds, I want to share a Tom Cruise story, if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, go
So
for it.
back in the day when they were doing War of the Worlds, they filmed it in upstate New York in the area that I was living in, and so they had a lot of people that I knew and stuff were like extras in that when they were running in the field and all that bullshit. Not a big deal. I don't really actually recognize any of them in the movie, but I know that they went there because they told me, and a lot of people were there. So anyway, long story short, there's this inn that Tom Cruise is staying at, and my friend works there at the inn. It was actually my friend's
Mm.
girlfriend. She was working at the inn that he was staying at, and she said he was the weirdest fucking dude like ever. Like
Not surprising.
he would like sneak around the hallways and shit in like a black cloak. And I guess he was also like one of those,
A
yeah,
black
like he would
cloak,
like a black cloak, and there may have even been like a mask involved.
like from like from Eyes
Something
Wide
like
Shut.
that. Like he was like creeping around the hallways. Like
Yeah.
I guess like I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to be bothered, but it was just fucking weird. Like it was just like very strange.
Mhm.
And I think if I remember correctly, she said that there was also like some of that prima donna shit you hear about with a lot of the rock bands. Like he had to have shit set up on his desk a perfect
Oh, the
way,
diva.
and like
Yeah.
like the pencils facing a certain fucking way or a certain candy in a bowl or some
Mm.
shit. but I don't know. I forget a lot of the details of the story because this happened so fucking long ago. I mean, War of the Worlds was decades ago at this point. But yeah, it was just I just remember saying how fucking weird and creepy he was. Like people were like reporting like who the fuck is that
Yeah.
like wandering around the hallway like in a black cloak and shit. But anyway, we all know Tom Cruise is a fucking weirdo. So
Yeah, it's fitting. I believe
Mm.
that story.
Yeah, I'm
Oh yeah, it
sure.
makes sense. I mean, for sure. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the more normal fucking Tom Cruise stories that people have.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um, so I guess we'll move right along, especially since for some reason it says my battery is low, even though I have it plugged in.
yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say we probably got about time for like one more, if we want to keep up with our little bit over an
yeah.
hour thing.
Aw, that's sad. I'll have to leave some of them for a future
I
episode then.
I definitely want you to hit this up again at a later date.
Oh, I will. There's a lot of movies, so for sure I will. Let's talk about Freeway, because I'm pretty sure at least one of you have seen some of Freeway. Have you seen a movie called Freeway from 1996?
Once again, maybe, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I couldn't tell you right out of the gate now.
I tried to watch
Okay.
that one for the show, and it wasn't the movie; it was me. I had a really long day, and I was exhausted, and I actually like fell asleep during it. I made the attempt, and then I didn't get to go back. But
Uh,
I understand the
well,
premise of it,
I
though.
can still
Yeah,
talk about it, I
lead us along,
guess.
Jen.
This one is one of the shorter notes that I took, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and do that one. Um, okay, my personal opinion, it is a cracked out version of Red Riding Hood. The setting is urban instead of a forest. Her mother is a junkie prostitute, and the young girl is a juvenile delinquent with anger issues. And she's played by Reese Witherspoon, which is kind of weird because, Reese Witherspoon normally plays like, sweet, innocent kind of roles, and this one is not
I need
that.
to get more into that. That sounds interesting.
But she can go either way though. I was actually kind of impressed by her acting in
Hmm.
this. She does a good job playing both innocent and wild. The wolf is a perverted serial killer played by Kiefer Sutherland. And he, of course, is a great actor and does a fine job. But I compare this movie to Jerry Springer. You know that show, Jerry Springer?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, my teenage daughter is a junkie prostitute, you know, and she comes in with like this big attitude,
Fuck y'all! Y'all
It's
don't
a
know
lot like
me.
that.
Y'all don't know me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So imagine Reese Witherspoon playing a character like that. I mean, that's enough to make
Yeah, I'm
you want
gonna
to
have
watch it.
to get through it because that sounds really strange.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was
I think
always more
it's
of a
worth it.
Maury Povich guy, so maybe it's not for me.
Yeah. Well, all those shows are pretty similar, especially
They were.
later, because they're all trying to compete with one another on how outlandish they can be.
I think Maury Povich,
So,
Yeah.
though,
anyway,
kind of focused more on paternity shit, but and the ones I saw, I guess, I think it was like almost always like you're not
I
the
don't know.
father.
I'm just bullshitting. I
Well,
mean,
fuck. I mean, fuck
anyway.
Ricky Lake. I mean, I don't know.
But yeah, I got no time for Ricky Lake.
Anyway, continue.
um, so this tale, in this version, Little Red Riding Hood character is not only strong-willed, but can be just as violent as the wolf. She even disfigures him after he attacks her. So now he has like a permanent snarling grin. That's a must see. You got to see like what his face
Hmm.
looks like. It's crazy. Not super gory, but like just the grin on his face is so strange. Um, and I really like how they like modernized this fairy tale and made her into a very strong character. They do that in a couple of other Red Riding Hood movies as well, and I really, really like that. Because I mean, in the original tale, she's kind of a strong character, but not as strong as they depict her in the more modern versions. She veers off the path and whatnot, so I guess that can be construed as being strong and strong-willed. Um, but I mean, usually in those original versions, it's like the woodcutter comes and saves the day. So I really appreciate that they make the woman character even stronger in these versions. This movie can be a bit over the top and campy, but at the same time, I think it's clever. Um, it's kind of silly in a few ways, but I kind of like it despite that. I like how they did like the names of the characters. Like they only show her boyfriend, Reese Witherspoon's boyfriend, for a short period of time, but his name is Cutter Wood.
Hmm.
Butter
So he's
wood.
supposed to be like, yeah, so he's supposed to be like the woodcutter. And he basically just helps her and gives her a weapon um, to protect her for like later. Um, and the wolf, Kiefer Sutherland, his name is Bob Wolverton.
They really went
Which
all out with the names,
they
huh?
did, yeah, kind of silly, kind of cheesy a little bit, but it's a
Yeah.
fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's worth a watch. Um, there's like a lot of little things, she wears a red leather jacket for part of the movie, so that's like, and she goes to her grandmother's house, and her grandmother lives in a trailer park. Um,
Michael
so
Jackson would have made a great Little Red Riding Hood.
ah, a great Red Riding Hood.
Yeah,
Hey, bringing that back around.
that's right.
I like
I
it.
was looking at pictures of the grin you were talking about. That's pretty heinous looking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got to check that out for sure.
and and he's an absolute pervert. Like he's just horrible. And he makes her feel like really safe. Like he pretends that well, for all I know, it could be true. But he, gives like advice to like young boys and stuff. Like he helps, is like a therapist or something. And she starts to trust him, and she tells him all about like her problems and like all about her life. And he just basically kind of acts pervy and starts getting violent. And she's like, nah, I'm not going to have any of that. And she can get just as violent as he is. So
I thought that was I thought
it's
that
a
was
good one.
interesting to go back to that really shitty movie we talked about, Dead Time Stories. It kind of the
Yeah.
way you're talking about it reminded me a little bit of how they portrayed Goldilocks in that movie. How she was like also evil, like she was like
Yeah.
a killer as well.
She is
Yeah,
crazy.
like and that was
Yeah.
the worst part of the movie was the end. The Bear family, God, that was awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, you just kind of reminded me of how it was interesting that they took kind of an innocent character and turned it into she was kind of a violent bitch. But
hmm
interestingly enough, with you talking about that, it is I don't know, something that I kind of noticed recently was that one thing about fairy tales, it seems like there's always strong female characters in a lot of fairy tales. It seems like most of the time there's always like a matriarchal character or a strong female
Yes.
lead, and that really interests me though because back in the day, you'd think that it would have been more like they would have been promoting men more, or it would have been about men more
Yeah.
because women were kind of put on the back burner in history a lot of times and kind of really didn't have a voice. So I do think that that's really interesting that women take a large part, but it also makes me feel like maybe that's something that we do. I mean, it almost feels like in more recent horror movies, when I say that, I mean, horror movies in general, even back to like Psycho and stuff, like, I don't know, maybe women are the appeal, like in order to get the audience, we need the beautiful woman or the, some kind of, uh, I don't know, sexuality, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
sex
it's
appeal.
interesting that
Yeah.
that started even back in fairy tales. I don't know.
hmm And in
Yeah.
mythology. And
Mythology, of
mythology
course.
as well.
Mythology was riddled
Hmm.
with sex and
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
goddesses and whatnot. So yeah, that's
hmm And strong
yeah.
females as well. I mean, yes, a lot of them, were sexually assaulted. But there's still very strong female characters
I
in
mean, I
there as
think
well.
if you really think about it, though, a lot of the stories in mythology, I mean, there's been many, many, many a times that a strong female characters put men on their knees. I mean, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Very interesting, kind of thinking about that.
Mhm.
I added one for our.
Well,
Sorry.
I personally am going to say that I liked your picks that you've we've talked about during this show. To me, they're not so much the mainstream fairy tales that I'm used to. So that's
Mhm.
kind of cool. And I think that's probably, for the most part, the same for, I would guess, most listeners too. So it's neat to kind of delve into a little bit different realm to understand and hear about more of the ones that maybe you haven't heard about. Like I said, I think I heard about Legend, and I might even have seen a little bit of it, but
Mhm.
um, that it's not your typical Snow White or
Yeah.
God forbid Maleficent. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Seen that one, but
Mhm.
yeah, I've most of the fairy tale stuff I've seen has been induced through my children wanting to watch it, and therefore rarely the horror version of it. But yeah, those are some cool picks for sure.
I think maybe your family might like to watch
Mm.
Legend. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I think, that
if
one
we
that
get
one
past all the
yeah.
glitter, I don't know. I kind of
Yeah, oh, there's so much glitter.
glitter and goo, baby.
Yeah.
I think it came up in a, sorry,
I prefer
I think it
you.
came up in a previous episode, but Maleficent, in my opinion, was the most badass fucking character, and
Yeah.
especially the Disney versions. That kind of used to creep me out when I was a kid, even though it's a cartoon. Um, I wanted to add that I am adding Willow to our next session on.
I
So I
love that
wrote
movie,
that down
yes.
because
Let's
that's going
add
to
that.
happen, and that's got my dude in it. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm like a huge Leprechaun
Yeah.
fan. So Warwick Davis
Warwick
is my
Davis.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much grew up with Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask really quick, what is your favorite fairy tale, each of you? Jen, do you have a favorite, like, overall, that's the one?
I do. Yeah. Red Riding Hood is my favorite for
Okay.
sure. It's the one that I gravitate towards the most. The one that I can see the most. The symbolism in it always intrigued me. I'm definitely going to go more into that symbolism in Red Riding Hood, but it will have to be at a later
Yeah.
date. It'll have to
Well,
be a
that'll be
later
good. We
show.
can hook the people because we're going to be discussing Red Riding Hood some more. Steve, what do you think,
Yeah,
man? You got like kind of a story that sort of catches you?
Um, Jeez. I mean, I never really contemplated the the fact that what I was watching was actually a derivative or based off of a fairy tale. And there's so many movies that I've seen over the years that I really liked that probably have fairy tale qualities to them, but might not be well known. I guess I would say, at least for me, my favorite fairy tale style movie that I've seen was Pan's Labyrinth, and I'm
hmm
guessing a lot of people have seen that. And so I don't know if that answers necessarily the question, but I would say that that's kind of the one that I've enjoyed the most over the years in that genre, if you will, that I've seen is Pan's Labyrinth.
yeah. We'll definitely talk about that
Oh,
one
Jesus
too.
Christ, let me add it to the list.
Yep, I have a
You know,
full
you
list
got
as well.
five already for the next show or the next fairy tale
Mhm.
show.
Nice,
So, so that
challenge
one
accepted.
is already filled up, probably. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
and I have a couple that I didn't get a chance to talk about
Yeah,
today.
well, that's going to be on episode 3, dear, because I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be hard to make it through. But we do have a lot of Del Toro. I think
Okay.
the next one, two of the movies you guys picked is Del
Yeah.
Toro, so phenomenal director.
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and say my favorite
Yeah.
is Rumpelstiltskin, and I'm not
Nice.
I'm
That's
not
right.
entirely sure. I don't really know why I'm so into Rumpelstiltskin, but that's always been my favorite fairy tale story. I don't know. I think it's just
Yeah.
interesting. I love the idea of the creepy little like imp running around causing all these problems, and it's just I don't know. It was a really fun story for me. I think. And there is a horror movie of Rumpelstiltskin, and we'll probably discuss that as well at some point. I'm not going to say the next one, but I'm going to make a note of it for at least episode 3 of
Yeah.
this. Um, Stiltskin. Yeah, I don't know. So I'll get into that at a different time. Maybe I'll be able to figure out between now and then why I like it so much. But I really wish Warwick Davis had played Rumpelstiltskin at some point in time because I feel like that would have been amazing.
Surprised he hasn't.
Yeah, I wish he
Yeah,
had.
I was contemplating trying to think if he had, because I think there's a few different Rumpelstiltskin movies. But yeah, I guess he hadn't. I don't think he has. But yeah, that would have been a
Probably would
good
have
one
been
for him to
fucking
do for sure.
phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
just the way he is in Leprechaun and everything. Is Leprechaun a fairy tale, or is that folk? That's folklore, right? That'd be
I
like
mean,
folklore.
it has magic. Um, I feel like it's more like
Yeah,
folklore. Remember, folklore it could be magic, has magic, or it might
yeah.
not
And
have magic.
Leprechaun is
So I think that one's a little bit more
yeah,
folklorish to
definitely like
me.
Irish folklore. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you got. Sorry,
Gotcha.
Steve.
Well, no, I was just going to say, do we want to do what we always do and pick a possible movie for somebody to
Yes,
watch?
yes. Let's pick a movie. I almost forgot, to be honest with you.
My battery's
Yeah, we'll be
dying.
done here in a second.
But yeah, I'm sorry.
If Jen cuts out, let's just assume it's Little Red Riding Hood. Anyway, Jen, you go first, just in case.
Well, I can recommend a movie that is also Red Riding Hood. It's called The Company of Wolves. I watched it when I was very young. It made a huge impression on me. It started my love of Red Riding Hood. And I have two, almost 2 pages about it already. We can talk about that next time.
Steve.
Yeah.
And I watched the trailer of that one too, and it did look
Did you?
intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Oh,
was,
there's a lot of surreal imagery in that movie.
is that the one that's got literally like a wolf coming out of the person's mouth as it's transforming? Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
What you got,
I
Jake?
was asking you.
Oh, okay. What do
you
I got? Let's see. I'm going to go with one that I have seen recently that I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's probably be more folklore. It's 1 part horror and 3 parts hilarious.
Okay.
It's called Unwelcome. And
Oh.
the creatures, and it's a relatively newer movie, I think. I can't remember if I saw it on Hulu or Netflix or one of those, but it's on one of these streaming things here now. But a young couple that is married with a baby on the way is they like inherit a house, and they move to this place. I think it was the husband's aunt or something that passed away. But in moving there, they are told that they need to put like raw meat of some sort out on the back to keep these red caps at bay. And they're like these little creatures that live out in the woods. And this girl, this young woman, doesn't think much of it, forgets about it, and continues to forget about it. And they finally come in to the home, and it's not a fantastic movie. It's entertaining, but there's some hilarious scenes in this movie, and there's some kind of gory stuff in it too. So it's got a little bit of everything, but that's an entertaining watch. Unwelcome.
Unwelcome.
Yeah.
Okay. A movie that I had seen recently again, and I hadn't watched in a long time, and this just popped into my head, even though it's, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be relevant to the topic, but is The Others, Nicole Kidman. Supernatural movie, kind of based back in the day, and really kind of like there's an amazing twist, of course. We all love the twist, and it's a supernatural movie and kind of goes into the details of ghosts and that kind of thing. It's The Others. I don't know if it was pretty popular. Most people have probably seen it, but if you haven't seen it, I would definitely check that out. That's a very good movie in my opinion, and just for some reason it just came to mind. So that's that.
Like a gothic
What's that?
horror. Like a gothic horror.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, that's also a movie. Like I said before, when I like originality, I've never seen anything like that. When I saw that, and I don't know if I've really seen anything like it since. But I'm not usually one to recommend the paranormal, but that's definitely a great movie. So, normally I end this with a horror quote, and today I've got something a little bit different because I just found this the other day, and I loved it so much I wanted to share it. We're all going to die, all of us. What a circus. That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. We are all terrorized and flattened by trivialities. We are all eaten up by nothing. And Jen's gone. Oh, Jen's battery died. Okay. Well, on that note, Steve, it was great seeing you. Can you still hear me?
You the
Okay.
same? I
And
can.
I guess we'll be looking forward to other episodes in the future about fairy tales. And with that being said, everybody, thank you for listening and watching. And do the thing where like, follow all that shit. I'm not going to keep begging you, so I'm just going to say do the thing. Anyway, if you're listening, we love you and have a good whatever it is that you're doing.